The woman in the champagne dress touched his shoulder, her voice soft but urgent. "You need to leave now, Victor. The car is waiting. You cannot be late to your own wedding." He did not turn to look at her. His hands were shaking as he adjusted his cufflinks, and he could not make them stop. "I know what time it is. Do you? Because you have been standing in this bathroom for 20 minutes. My father has called twice. The bishop is already at the altar. Tell your father I will be there." She paused in the doorway. He could feel her watching him in the mirror, searching his face for something she would not find. "Victor, are you having second thoughts?" He finally met her eyes in the reflection. Catherine Pemberton was beautiful in the way paintings are beautiful. Composed. Perfect. Entirely still. "No. I am just nervous." She nodded, but she did not believe him. He could see it in the way her smile did not reach her eyes. She had learned, over 3 years of engagement, to accept the parts of him he refused to explain. "I will see you at the altar." She left. The door closed behind her with a soft click, and Victor Harrington stood alone in the marble bathroom of his penthouse, 41 years old, worth more money than he could spend in 3 lifetimes, and completely unable to breathe. Welcome back to another powerful story, my beloved listeners. Kindly tell where you're watching from and what time it is where you're at. If you're new here, prepare for a story of betrayal, unexpected love, and what truly makes a family. Drop everything and listen closely. This tale of heartbreak and redemption might just change how you view love and family forever. The morning was grey in the way October mornings often are in this city. Clouds low and heavy, the air carrying the promise of rain that would not come. Victor drove himself to the church, which Catherine had discouraged. A groom should arrive in style, she had said. A groom should have a driver. But Victor needed these 15 minutes alone. He needed the familiar weight of the steering wheel in his hands, the routine of checking mirrors, the simple mechanical act of operating a vehicle. It kept his mind from wandering to places it should not go. St. Michael's Cathedral was across town, through the financial district, past the neighborhoods where the brownstones gave way to apartment buildings, through the part of the city where working people waited for buses that ran on schedules no one could predict. Victor took the long route because he always took the long route. It was not nostalgia. It was not sentiment. It was simply the way he had always driven, and he saw no reason to change it today. The traffic slowed near Western Avenue. A delivery truck was double-parked, and the cars ahead of him were navigating around it with a particular impatience of city drivers who have somewhere important to be. Victor waited. He was a patient man. Patience was a requirement in his line of work, where deals worth hundreds of millions could collapse over a single misplaced word. He glanced at the bus stop on his right. A metal bench, a peeling advertisement for a Broadway show that had closed 2 years ago, a small shelter with graffiti scratched into the plexiglass. Nothing remarkable. Nothing that should have made his heart stop. But there was a woman standing there. She wore a navy blazer over a simple white blouse. Her hair was pulled back, practical but elegant. She was speaking into her phone, laughing at something the person on the other end had said, her free hand gesturing in a way that made her seem animated, alive, entirely present in the moment. And beside her, sitting on the bench, were 2 little girls. They were playing a clapping game, their small hands moving in perfect synchronization. They wore matching backpacks, purple for one, pink for the other. Their dark hair caught the grey morning light. They could not have been older than 7. Victor's foot found the brake before his mind registered what he was seeing. The car behind him honked. He did not hear it. The woman turned slightly, still laughing, and he saw her profile. The angle of her jaw. The way she tilted her head when she smiled. The graceful line of her neck that he had traced with his fingers 1,000 times in another lifetime. Margot Delaney. The name rose in his chest like a wave, threatening to pull him under. 8 years. 8 years since he had seen that face. 8 years since he had walked out of her apartment with his bags packed and his future planned and his heart carefully locked away where it could not interfere with his ambitions. 8 years. He looked at the children again. One of them had turned toward her sister, revealing her profile. The shape of her nose. The set of her chin. The exact angle of her forehead. His angle. His chin. His nose. The car behind him honked again, longer this time. The light had changed. Victor forced his foot to the gas pedal, forced his eyes back to the road, forced his lungs to take in air. It was not possible. She would have told him. If she had been pregnant when he left, she would have said something. She would have called, written, appeared at his office demanding answers. Margot was not the kind of woman who kept secrets. She was not the kind of woman who suffered in silence. Except he had told her, standing in her living room with his bags already at the door, that she was not part of his future. He had explained, with the careful logic of a man who believed his own ambition was the only currency that mattered, that she lacked the drive to keep pace with the life he intended to build. He had said these things gently, as if gentleness could soften the blade. And she had not argued. She had not cried. Not then. She had simply opened the door and told him to leave. What would a woman do, Victor thought, if she discovered she was pregnant the week before a man told her she was not ambitious enough to be part of his future? What would she do if she was carrying his children and he looked her in the eye and said she did not matter enough to keep? She would keep that secret. She would protect herself and her children from a man who had already proven he could not be trusted. Victor drove the rest of the way to the church without seeing anything. His hands gripped the wheel so tightly his knuckles went white. His phone buzzed in his pocket. Once, twice, 3 times. He did not answer. The cathedral appeared ahead. White stone and Gothic arches and 300 guests inside, waiting to witness the union of Victor Harrington and Catherine Pemberton. A merger of families. A consolidation of power. A wedding that had been planned for 3 years and negotiated like a corporate acquisition. He pulled into the parking lot and cut the engine. For a long moment, he sat there, staring at his hands, trying to remember how to breathe. A knock on his window startled him. Daniel, his best man, was peering through the glass with an expression of controlled panic. "You are late." Catherine is starting to worry. George is furious. The bishop has another wedding at 2. Victor opened the door and stepped out. The air was cold, carrying the smell of fallen leaves and distant rain. He straightened his tie. "I am here now. Are you all right? You look like you have seen a ghost." Victor walked toward the cathedral without answering. His legs carried him through the doors, down the aisle, past the faces of business associates and family friends and people whose names he could not remember. Catherine's mother dabbed at her eyes with a silk handkerchief. George Pemberton watched from the front pew, his expression unreadable. And then Catherine was walking toward him, radiant in white, and the organ was playing, and someone was speaking words about love and commitment and forsaking all others, and Victor heard himself respond in all the right places. "I do." The words came out steady. His voice did not shake. His face did not betray him. But inside, all he could see were 2 little girls playing a clapping game at a bus stop, their faces turned away from him, their existence a secret he had never been told. The reception was held at the Pemberton estate, 40 acres of manicured gardens and imported sculptures, and the kind of wealth that announces itself quietly, through understatement rather than excess. Champagne flowed. A string quartet played Mozart. Waiters in white gloves circulated with trays of food that cost more per bite than most people earned in an hour. Victor moved through it like a man in a dream. He shook hands, accepted congratulations, posed for photographs with his arm around Catherine's waist. She smiled up at him, and he smiled back, and anyone watching would have seen a happy couple at the beginning of their life together. But his eyes kept drifting to the edges of the crowd, searching for a face that would not be there. Margot Delaney would never be invited to an event like this. She did not move in these circles. She was probably at home right now, putting those little girls to bed, reading them stories, kissing their foreheads the way she had kissed his forehead on lazy Sunday mornings in another lifetime. A hand closed around his elbow. George Pemberton, his father-in-law, was guiding him toward a corner of the tent. "You did well today." George's voice was low, meant only for Victor. Catherine looked beautiful. "You looked appropriate. The merger announcement will be next month. Everything is proceeding as planned. Thank you for everything you have done for my company. I did not do it for your company. I did it for my daughter. She loves you, Victor. I expect you to be worthy of that love. I will do my best." George studied him for a moment, his eyes sharp and assessing. "You seem distracted. Is there something on your mind?" "Just tired. It has been a long day." George nodded, but Victor could see he was not convinced. George Pemberton had not built a billion-dollar investment firm by accepting easy answers. He would be watching. He would be waiting for Victor to slip. Catherine appeared at Victor's side, her hand finding his. "Dance with me." He let her lead him to the floor. The quartet shifted into a waltz. She placed her hand on his shoulder and looked up at him with eyes that were trusting and hopeful and entirely unaware of the earthquake happening inside his chest. "Are you happy?" "Of course. You seem far away." "I am right here." She did not push further. That was Catherine's way. She trusted him, even when he gave her nothing to trust. She believed in him, even when he offered no evidence to support that belief. She loved him with a patience that he did not deserve and would never be able to repay. The song ended. The guests applauded. Victor and Catherine separated to work the room, and he found himself standing alone near the bar, a glass of champagne in his hand that he had not drunk. His phone buzzed in his pocket. He pulled it out, expecting another congratulatory message from a business associate. The number was unfamiliar. Local, but not one he recognized. He answered without thinking. "Hello." A child's voice came through the speaker, high and clear and impossibly young. "Is this Mr. Harrington? The one from the shiny card?" Victor's blood turned to ice. "Who is this?" "My name is Violet. I found your card at my school. It has a picture of you and a bunch of words I cannot read. My teacher said you are important because you are a CEO. What is a CEO? Victor could not speak. His throat had closed completely. He could hear party sounds in the background, laughter and music and the clink of champagne glasses, but it all seemed very far away. "Hello. Are you still there?" "I am here." "Violet, where did you find my card?" "On the ground at the school fundraiser. There were lots of business people there. My sister Iris says you might be famous." "Are you famous?" Victor's hand was shaking so badly he nearly dropped the phone. "Violet, where are your parents?" "My mama is in the shower. She does not know I have her phone. I am not supposed to use it without asking. I need you to tell me your last name." "Delaney. Violet Delaney. My sister is Iris Delaney. We are twins, but we do not look exactly the same. Iris has a freckle on her nose and I do not. We are 7. Well, we will be 8 in March. Mama says we are winter babies." The world tilted sideways. Victor gripped the edge of the bar to steady himself. March. 7 years old. Winter babies. Conceived in June 8 years ago, when he and Margot had spent long weekends at the shore, when she had whispered against his chest that she loved him and he had been too afraid to say it back. "I have to go now. Mama is coming out of the bathroom. Goodbye, Mr. Harrington." The line went dead. Victor stood there for a long time, the phone still pressed to his ear, the party swirling around him like water around a stone. Somewhere behind him, Catherine was laughing at something a guest had said. Somewhere in the city, 2 little girls were getting ready for bed, unaware that the man on the shiny business card was their father. He had walked away from Margot 8 years ago because she was not ambitious enough. Because she was content with small things. Because she did not match his hunger for success. And she had been pregnant with his children. She had raised them alone. She had built a life without him. She had never called, never written, never demanded anything from him. She had simply disappeared, and he had let her go because it was easier than staying. Now he was married to another woman, standing in a tent full of people celebrating a union that was already built on a lie, and all he could think about was a child's voice asking him if he was famous. "Are you famous, Mr. Harrington?" No. He was not famous. He was a coward who had abandoned the only woman he had ever loved, and he was only just beginning to understand what that had cost him. The honeymoon was a private island in the Caribbean, the kind of place where billionaires went to escape the obligations of their wealth. White sand beaches, crystal blue water, staff who anticipated every need before it was spoken. Catherine had chosen it from a catalogue of options, each more luxurious than the last. Victor spent most of it staring at his phone. He searched for Margot's name in every database he could access. He found her company website, sleek and professional, advertising boutique consulting services for mid-sized businesses. Delaney and Associates. Founded 6 years ago. 15 employees. Offices downtown. She had built this while raising twins alone. She had built this without his money, without his connections, without any of the advantages he had taken for granted his entire life. The website had no photographs of her children. No mention of her personal life at all. She had protected them carefully, kept them separate from her professional identity. A woman who understood that some things were too precious to expose to public scrutiny. Catherine found him on the fifth night, sitting on the balcony with his laptop open, the glow of the screen illuminating his face. "You have been distracted since the wedding." She stood in the doorway, her silk robe catching the breeze. "Every time I try to talk to you, you are somewhere else." "Who is she?" Victor closed the laptop. "There is no one. Do not lie to me." Catherine's voice was quiet, but there was steel beneath the softness. "I saw your face change during the ceremony. I saw you looking at your phone during the reception. Something happened on our wedding day, and I deserve to know what it was." He could have lied. He was good at lying. He had built an entire career on the ability to present a certain version of reality and make people believe it was true. But Catherine was standing there in the moonlight, her eyes searching his face, and something in him cracked. "I saw someone. On the way to the church. Someone from my past. An old girlfriend." "Yes." Catherine was silent for a long moment. The waves crashed against the shore below, rhythmic and indifferent. "And this old girlfriend. She is why you have been acting like a ghost since our wedding day. She had children with her. 2 little girls. Twins." Catherine's face went pale. "Are they yours?" "I do not know. Maybe. Probably. The timing would be right." "Victor." She said his name like it hurt her. "You married me knowing this. You said vows to me, stood before God and our families and 300 witnesses, and the whole time you were thinking about another woman and her children." "I did not know for certain. I still do not know for certain." "Then find out." Her voice cracked on the words. "Because I will not spend my marriage wondering if my husband is wishing he was somewhere else." She went back inside. Victor sat alone on the balcony, listening to the waves, watching the stars wheel overhead, and felt the life he had built beginning to crumble at the foundations. The morning after they returned from the honeymoon, Victor called his assistant. "I need everything you can find on Margot Delaney. Business records, public filings, anything accessible. And I need the enrollment records for Western Avenue Elementary." His assistant paused. "Sir, school enrollment records are not public information. Find a way." He hung up and stood at the window of his office, looking out at the city spread before him. Somewhere out there, in one of those thousands of buildings, Margot was going about her day. Taking her daughters to school. Meeting with clients. Building the life she had constructed without him. His phone buzzed. A text from Catherine. "My father wants to have dinner tonight. He says it is about the merger. I told him you would be there." Victor typed back a confirmation and turned away from the window. The dinner was at a restaurant that required reservations months in advance, the kind of place where meals cost more than most people's rent and the waiters spoke in hushed tones as if they were in church. George Pemberton sat at the head of the table, flanked by his wife and son. Catherine sat beside Victor, her hand occasionally finding his beneath the tablecloth. "The merger is proceeding on schedule." George cut into his steak with surgical precision. "The announcement will be at the quarterly gala next month. Both companies will benefit significantly from the consolidation of resources. I appreciate everything you have done." Victor's voice was steady, automatic. "Your investment saved my company." George set down his knife. "I did not invest in your company, Victor. I invested in you. In your judgment. In your stability. In your ability to be the kind of partner my daughter deserves." Victor felt Catherine's hand tighten on his. "I understand." "Do you?" "Because I have heard some concerning things." George's eyes were cold, appraising. "My sources tell me you have been making inquiries. Searching for information about a woman and her children. Requesting school records." The table went silent. Catherine's hand withdrew from his. George continued, his voice never rising above a conversational tone. "I do not care what happened before you became engaged to my daughter. The past is the past. But you are married now. You are part of this family. And I expect you to act accordingly." Victor met his father-in-law's gaze. "There are some things I need to resolve." Resolve them quickly. And quietly. George picked up his knife and resumed cutting his steak. I have invested too much in this merger to watch it collapse because of some old girlfriend and a case of cold feet. The rest of the dinner passed in silence. Catherine did not look at Victor. She did not touch him. When they returned to the penthouse that night, she went straight to the guest bedroom and closed the door. Victor stood alone in the living room, surrounded by furniture that cost more than most people's houses, and felt the walls closing in. 3 weeks after the wedding, Victor's assistant called with news. The school records were a dead end. But I found something else. There is a charity gala tonight for the Western Avenue Elementary Arts Program. The donor list includes Delaney and Associates. She will probably be there. Victor looked at his calendar. He had a board meeting scheduled for the same time. Important investors. Critical decisions about the company's future. Clear my schedule for this evening. Sir, the board meeting. Clear it. He hung up and sat very still, his heart pounding, his hand steady. Tonight he would see her. Tonight he would know. The gala was held in a renovated warehouse in the Arts District, the kind of space that wealthy people rented to remind themselves that they cared about culture. Exposed brick, industrial lighting, a jazz quartet playing in the corner. The guests were a mix of educators, philanthropists, and business owners who wanted to appear civic-minded. Victor saw her the moment he walked in. She stood near the bar, holding a glass of wine she had not touched, listening to a man in a tweed jacket talk about curriculum development. She wore a dark green dress that made her look like she belonged in a painting. Her hair was longer than he remembered, silver threading through the dark waves at her temples. She looked older. She looked beautiful. She looked like a woman who had survived something difficult and emerged stronger for it. He walked toward her before he could stop himself. The man in the tweed jacket saw him first. His eyes went wide, the way people's eyes often did when they recognized Victor Harrington from magazine covers and business news segments. Mr. Harrington, we are so honored you could attend. Your company's donation to the arts program has been. Thank you. Victor's eyes never left Margot's face. Could you give us a moment? The man looked between them, sensed something he did not understand, and retreated. Margot set down her wine glass. Her expression did not change. Her voice, when she spoke, was completely controlled. Victor, I heard you got married. Congratulations. Thank you. You look well. I am well. The silence between them was thick enough to touch. Victor spoke first. I saw you. A few weeks ago. At the bus stop on Western Avenue. Margot's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. Did you? You had 2 girls with you. Twins. Yes. Are they mine? The question hung in the air between them, 8 years of silence compressed into 4 words. Margot picked up her wine glass again, but she did not drink. Her hand was steady. You do not have the right to ask me that. I think I do. No. You do not. She finally looked at him directly, and her eyes were cold. You told me I was not part of your future. You said I lacked ambition. You walked out of my apartment with your bags already packed and your next promotion already planned. You made your choice, Victor. You do not get to unmake it now because it is convenient. If they are my children, they are my children. Mine. I raised them. I was there for every fever, every nightmare, every first day of school. I held them when they cried and celebrated when they succeeded and answered their questions when they asked why they did not have a father. She set down her glass hard enough that wine splashed onto the bar. You contributed DNA. That is not the same thing as being a parent. You could have told me. Why would I? You made it clear what I was worth to you. I was not going to beg for your attention. I was not going to trap you with a pregnancy announcement when you had already decided I was disposable. I never said you were disposable. You said I was not part of your future. How is that different? Victor had no answer. The words he had spoken 8 years ago, the words he had barely remembered until now, hung between them like a verdict. Margot picked up her purse from the bar. I am leaving. Do not follow me. Do not contact me. Do not try to find my children. They have a good life. They are happy and stable and loved. You are a stranger to them, and that is exactly how I intend to keep it. She walked away without looking back. Victor stood at the bar, surrounded by people celebrating art and education and community, and felt the full weight of what he had done settle onto his shoulders. He had walked away from her 8 years ago because she was not ambitious enough. And in those 8 years, she had built a business, raised 2 children alone, and become exactly the kind of person he had claimed she could never be. She had done all of this without him. She did not need him. She did not want him. And he had never needed anyone more in his life. The call came at 3 in the afternoon on a Tuesday. Victor was in a meeting with his legal team, reviewing contracts for the merger, when his assistant knocked on the door with an expression of controlled urgency. "Sir, there is a call for you. They say it is an emergency. Take a message. It is about Violet Delaney, sir." Victor stood up so fast his chair crashed into the wall behind him. The lawyers stared at him. He did not care. He took the call in his private office, his hands shaking. "Mr. Harrington, this is Nurse Patterson from Western Avenue Elementary. We have you listed as an emergency contact for Violet Delaney." Victor's blood went cold. "That is not possible. I never." "Your information was written on an emergency card in Violet's backpack. Her mother is unreachable. She is in a meeting, and her phone appears to be off. Violet collapsed during recess, and we need to transport her to the hospital. As the secondary contact, we are required to notify you. I will be there." "Which hospital?" "Children's Memorial. The paramedics are taking her now." Victor was out of the building and in his car before the nurse finished speaking. The drive to the hospital took 17 minutes. He ran 3 red lights. He did not care. When he arrived, the emergency room was a blur of fluorescent lights and antiseptic smell and the quiet urgency of people trained to handle crisis. He found the nurse's station and said Violet Delaney's name like it was a prayer. They directed him to a pediatric ward on the 3rd floor. He took the stairs because the elevator was too slow. Outside room 312, he stopped. Through the small window in the door, he could see her. A little girl with dark hair and pale skin, small and fragile in the hospital bed, wires connecting her to monitors that beeped in a steady rhythm. Her eyes were closed. Victor stood frozen in the hallway, unable to move, unable to look away. A doctor approached. "Are you the father?" The word hit him like a physical blow. "I do not know. Maybe." The doctor raised an eyebrow but said nothing. "We are running tests. It appears to be a hereditary condition. Some kind of blood disorder. We will know more when the results come back. Is she going to be all right?" "We are optimistic. But I need to ask about family medical history. The mother's records are complete, but we have nothing on the paternal side." Victor thought of his father, currently in hospice care with heart failure. Thought of his grandmother, who had died of complications from a blood clotting disorder when Victor was 12. Thought of all the medical information he had never considered relevant to anyone but himself. "I can get you that information. The sooner the better." A commotion at the end of the hallway made them both turn. Margot was running toward them. Her hair was coming loose from its twist. Her face was pale with terror. She was still wearing the badge from whatever corporate meeting she had been pulled out of, the lanyard swinging wildly as she ran. She saw Victor and stopped. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The doctor stepped forward. "Miss Delaney, your daughter is stable. We are running tests. Mr. Harrington has offered to provide family medical history from the paternal side." Margot's eyes moved from Victor to the doctor and back again. Her expression cycled through shock, fury, and something else Victor could not name. "How did you know to come here?" Victor's voice was quiet. "Violet listed me as her emergency contact. She must have written my information on a card in her backpack. The school called me when they could not reach you." Margot closed her eyes. When she opened them again, the fury had won. "She is 7 years old. She does not understand what she did. She wanted me to come." Victor said it simply, without accusation. "Whatever else is true, she wanted me to come." Margot pushed past him and went into the room. Victor watched through the window as she took her daughter's hand, as she leaned down to whisper something in the child's ear, as her shoulders began to shake with silent tears. He stayed in the hallway. He did not have the right to enter that room. He did not have the right to comfort either of them. But he stayed. He waited. He watched. And when the doctor came back with news about tests that required paternal medical history, Victor was still there, ready to provide whatever was needed. It was past midnight when Margot finally emerged from the room. The hospital was quiet now, the hallways dimmed, the staff moving with the hushed efficiency of the night shift. Victor had not left. He had sat in the hard plastic chair outside room 312 for 9 hours, refusing food, refusing coffee, refusing the concerned glances of nurses who did not understand why he was there. Margot looked exhausted. Her corporate clothes were wrinkled. Her makeup had worn away, leaving her face bare and vulnerable in a way he had not seen since they were together. She sat down in the chair next to his. For a long time, neither of them spoke. Finally, Margot said, the tests came back. It is a hereditary blood disorder. Rare, but manageable. She will need medication and monitoring for the rest of her life, but she can live normally. That is good news. Yes. Margot stared at the opposite wall. The doctor says it comes from the paternal line. It skips generations. Your grandmother probably had it and never knew. Victor nodded slowly. My grandmother died of a blood clot when I was 12. They never knew exactly what caused it. Now we know. Silence again. The monitor in Violet's room beeped steadily through the closed door. How long have you known? Margot asked quietly. That they were yours. Since my wedding day. I saw you at the bus stop. And then Violet called me that night. She found my business card at her school. Margot let out a long breath. She is curious. That one. Always has been. She cannot leave a question unanswered. She sounds like me. She sounds like both of us. Margot finally looked at him. She has your stubbornness and my impulsiveness. It is a dangerous combination. Victor allowed himself a small smile. And Iris. Iris is more cautious. She thinks before she acts. She protects her sister, protects me. She has been asking about her father since she was 4. I told her you were someone from my past who made choices that took you away from us. What did she say? She asked if you would ever come back. I said I did not think so. Victor felt the words like a knife between his ribs. Margot continued, her voice flat with exhaustion. I did not lie to them. I did not make you into a villain. I just told them the truth. That their father was a man who chose his career over the people who loved him. That he had his own journey to take, and it did not include us. I would have stayed. If you had told me you were pregnant. Would you? Margot turned to face him fully. Would you really have given up that promotion? That corner office? That fast track to becoming CEO? Would you have stayed in a small apartment with a woman you thought lacked ambition, raising children on a budget while your competitors climbed the ladder without you? Victor wanted to say yes. He wanted to believe he would have made a different choice. But Margot was looking at him with 8 years of experience in reading people who underestimated her, and he could not lie to her. I do not know. Exactly. Margot stood up. That is why I did not tell you. Because I knew you did not know. And I was not going to risk my children's stability on a man who was not sure he wanted to be their father. She walked toward the elevator. Victor stood. Margot. She stopped but did not turn around. I want to know them. I want to be in their lives. Whatever you will allow. However long it takes. Margot was silent for a long moment. Then she said, over her shoulder, Violet needs your family medical records. Get them to the hospital by tomorrow. After that, we will see. The elevator doors opened. She stepped inside. They closed behind her. Victor stood alone in the empty hallway, listening to the beep of monitors through closed doors, and understood that this was all he would get. Not forgiveness. Not reconciliation. Just the smallest possible opening. A crack in the wall she had built around herself and her daughters. It was more than he deserved. Victor's father was dying. This was not new information. William Harrington had been dying for months, his heart failing slowly in the private hospice facility Victor had chosen for its discretion and its proximity to nothing in particular. Victor had visited twice since the diagnosis. Both times, the conversations had been awkward, stilted, full of the unspoken grievances that accumulate between fathers and sons who never learn to speak honestly. But now Victor sat at his father's bedside with a purpose. I need your medical records. All of them. Going back as far as possible. William's eyes were sharp despite the oxygen tube in his nose. Why? Because I have a daughter. Victor paused. 2 daughters. Twins. And one of them is sick with something I passed down to her. William was quiet for a long moment. The machines hummed around them. Somewhere down the hall, a nurse was speaking in low tones to another patient's family. The woman you left. William said finally. The accountant. Yes. You never told me she was pregnant. I did not know. William closed his eyes. When he opened them again, they were wet. I knew. Victor went very still. What did you mean, you knew? She wrote to me. After the girls were born. She sent photographs. William's voice was barely a whisper. She did not want anything from me. She just said she thought I should know I had grandchildren. She has been sending updates every year. Birthday pictures. School photos. Their artwork. Victor felt the floor drop away beneath him. You knew. For 7 years. And you never told me. She asked me not to. William coughed, a wet and rattling sound. She said you had made your choice, and she had made hers. She did not want you to feel obligated. She did not want the girls to have a father who resented them. So you just kept it from me. I kept it from you because I agreed with her. William's gaze was steady, unflinching. Because I raised you to be the kind of man who walks away from love, and I was ashamed of us both. I thought maybe if you never knew, you would be spared the guilt. Victor stood up, his chair scraping against the floor. 7 years. 7 years of their lives. Birthdays and holidays and first days of school. You watched me search for something I could not name, and you knew exactly where to find it. William reached out a trembling hand. There is a box. In my closet at the apartment. All her letters. All the photographs. I want you to have them. I do not want your photographs. I want my daughters. Then earn them. William's voice gained strength for a moment. Do not repeat my mistakes, Victor. I chose work over your mother until she stopped choosing me back. I chose success over being present, and I ended up here. Alone. Dying in a room that costs more per day than most people earn in a month. And the only people who will cry at my funeral will be crying because they lost a business connection. Victor stood at the window, looking out at the grey November sky. William continued. Softer now. Those little girls do not need your money or your connections. They need a father who shows up. Who stays. Who puts them first even when it costs him something. Can you be that man? I do not know. Then figure it out. Because you do not have much time. That woman is moving on with her life, and she does not need you to survive. The only way you will ever be part of their family is if you prove you are worth the risk. Victor stayed with his father until the evening, listening to stories about Iris and Violet that he should have been there to witness firsthand. Their first words. Their first steps. The way Violet laughed at everything and Iris took everything seriously. The way they protected each other with the fierce loyalty of children who had only ever had each other and their mother. When he left, William pressed a key into his hand. The apartment. The box is in the bedroom closet. Top shelf. Victor closed his fingers around the key. I am sorry. William's voice was fading. For the man I raised you to be. For the man I was. For all of it. Victor did not answer. He did not know how. He drove to his father's apartment. He found the box. He sat on the floor of the empty bedroom and opened it. 7 years of letters. 7 years of photographs. Birthday cards signed with small handprints. School pictures with gap-toothed smiles. Drawings of houses and flowers and stick figures labeled Mama and Iris and Violet. And underneath all of it, a single letter from Margot, dated 8 years ago. William, I am writing to tell you that you have granddaughters. I do not expect anything from you or from your son. I just wanted someone in his family to know that Iris and Violet exist. They will grow up knowing that their father chose a different life. I hope that life makes him happy. I will not contact you again unless you want me to. But if you ever want to know them, the door is open. Margot. Victor read the letter 3 times. Then he sat on the floor of his dying father's apartment, surrounded by evidence of the life he had missed, and wept. The next morning, Victor delivered his family's medical records to the hospital. The doctor thanked him, reviewed the information, and confirmed that the genetic mutation had indeed come from his paternal line. This will help us manage Violet's treatment. The doctor was brisk but kind. Long term, she should be fine. But she will need monitoring, regular checkups, medication. A father who knows his family medical history could be useful. Victor nodded. He did not trust himself to speak. He found Margot in the cafeteria, drinking coffee that had long gone cold, her eyes hollow with exhaustion. The records helped. He sat down across from her. The doctor says Violet will be fine. I know. I talked to him this morning. Good. Silence. The cafeteria was nearly empty, just a few nurses on break and an elderly man reading a newspaper in the corner. Victor spoke first. My father knew. About the girls. You wrote to him. Margot set down her coffee cup. Yes. He never told me. I asked him not to. Why? Because I knew what would happen if you found out. She looked at him with eyes that held no anger, just weariness. You would have felt obligated. You would have shown up out of guilt, not love. And my daughters deserve better than a father who is only there because he thinks he should be. Victor had no defense. Margot continued. I gave William a choice. He chose to keep the secret. I do not blame him for that. He was trying to protect you, in his own way. Just like I was trying to protect them. You could have given me the same choice. I did give you a choice. 8 years ago, standing in my living room. You chose your career. You chose your ambition. You chose everything except me. The pregnancy did not change who you were. It just confirmed what I already suspected. That I was not capable of staying. That you were not ready to stay. There is a difference. Victor leaned forward. And now? Am I ready now? Margot studied him for a long moment. Her eyes moved across his face, searching for something she had once known how to find. I do not know. She stood up, gathering her coffee cup and her phone. But I am tired of carrying this alone. If you want to try, really try, then try. Show up. Be consistent. Prove that you can put someone else's needs before your own. That is what being a father means. She walked away. Victor sat in the empty cafeteria, watching her go, and understood that he had been given something he did not deserve. A chance. Just a chance. Whether he could actually do anything with it remained to be seen. 3 days later, Violet was discharged from the hospital. Victor was not there for the discharge. He had not been invited. But he was waiting in the parking lot when Margot walked out with Violet in her arms and Iris holding her other hand. Iris saw him first. She stopped walking and stared at him with eyes that were exactly like his own. Margot followed her daughter's gaze. Her expression tightened. Victor stepped forward. I know you did not invite me. I know I do not have the right to be here. But I wanted to see her. To see both of them. Violet lifted her head from her mother's shoulder. Her face was pale, but her eyes were bright. You came. She said it with a child's simple wonder. When they called you, you came. Of course I came. Iris tugged on her mother's hand. Mama. Is this him? Is this our father? Margot looked at Victor. He could see the war in her eyes, the desire to protect her daughters from disappointment versus the knowledge that they had already figured out the truth. Yes. She said it quietly. This is him. Iris studied Victor with a seriousness that seemed impossible for a 7-year-old. Violet says you have a shiny business card with your picture on it. She says you are a CEO. I do not know what that means. It means I run a company. Is it a good company? I think so. Do you help people? Victor paused. I try to. Sometimes I do not do a very good job. Iris considered this. Mama helps people. She has a company too. She started it all by herself. I know. Your mother is very impressive. She is the best. Iris stepped closer to Margot, protective. We do not need a father. We have been fine without one. Victor knelt down so he was at eye level with her. I know you have. And I am not trying to replace anything your mother has built. I just want a chance to be part of your lives. If you will let me. Iris looked at Violet. Some silent communication passed between them. Then Violet said, softly, can you come to my birthday party? It is in March. I will be 8. Victor looked at Margot. She closed her eyes for a moment. Then she nodded. I would be honored. Victor said. Violet smiled, small and tentative but real. Iris did not smile. But she did not tell him to go away, either. It was not much. But it was something. That evening, Victor returned to the penthouse he shared with Catherine. She was waiting for him in the living room, still wearing her coat, her suitcases lined up by the door. You have been at the hospital. She said it without accusation. With that woman and her children. Yes. I know about everything, Victor. My father told me. The letters your father kept. The emergency contact card. All of it. Victor stood very still. Catherine continued. I am not angry. I am disappointed. In you, in myself, in this whole situation. She picked up her purse. I am going to stay with my parents for a while. I need time to think. What about the merger? The merger will proceed regardless of our personal situation. My father has made that clear. But our marriage is a separate matter. She walked toward the door. I loved you, Victor. I did not marry you for my father's business or for the merger or for any reason except that I genuinely loved you. I know. Did you ever love me? Victor thought about it honestly. I cared about you. I respected you. I thought that was enough. It was not. She opened the door. Find out what you actually want, Victor. And be honest about it for once in your life. You owe me that much. She left. Victor stood in the empty penthouse, surrounded by expensive furniture and stunning views and all the trappings of the success he had spent his entire life pursuing. And for the first time, he understood that none of it had ever made him happy. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. This is Iris. Violet showed me how to use Mama's phone. I wanted to tell you something. Victor sat down slowly. Another message appeared. If you are really our father, then you need to prove it. Not with presents or money or fancy things. By showing up when it is hard. By staying when you want to leave. By putting us first even when it costs you something. Victor typed back. How do I do that? The response came after a long pause. I do not know. Figure it out. Mama figured out how to raise us alone. You can figure out how to be a father. Then a final message. Also Violet says you should bring chocolate to her birthday party. She likes the kind with the hazelnuts inside. Victor stared at the screen for a long time. Then he saved the number under Iris's name and went to find out where to buy chocolate with hazelnuts inside. It was not much. But it was a start. The weeks that followed were the strangest of Victor's life. He did not know how to be a father. He had never learned. His own father had been a presence more than a person, a figure who appeared at dinners and board meetings and the occasional holiday, who spoke in terms of quarterly reports and market projections rather than feelings or hopes or fears. But he tried. He started small. A text message to Margot asking if he could take the girls for ice cream on Saturday afternoon. Her response came after 3 hours, brief and cautious. 1 hour. The park on Western Avenue. I will be nearby. He arrived early. He sat on a bench and waited, his hands clasped between his knees, watching joggers and dog walkers and young couples pushing strollers. Normal people living normal lives. People who knew how to exist in the world without constantly calculating the angles. Margot arrived with the girls at exactly 3 o'clock. She wore jeans and a simple sweater, her hair loose around her shoulders. The armor she had worn at the hospital, at the gala, at every encounter since his wedding day, was slightly less visible. She looked tired. She looked human. 1 hour. She said it quietly, so the girls would not hear. I will be on the bench by the fountain. Do not take them out of my sight. I understand. She released their hands. Violet immediately ran toward the playground. Iris hung back, watching Victor with those serious eyes. What are we supposed to do with you? Victor considered the question. I thought we could get ice cream. And talk. Get to know each other. We do not know you. I know. That is what I want to change. Iris looked toward the playground, where Violet was already climbing the ladder to the slide. Why did you leave? Before we were born. Why did you go away? Victor had prepared for this question. He had rehearsed answers in his head, explanations that made him sound reasonable rather than selfish, justified rather than cruel. But looking at this small serious girl with his eyes and her mother's stubborn jaw, he found he could not lie. I made a mistake. I thought my job was more important than the people I loved. I was wrong. Mama says you told her she was not ambitious enough. I did say that. It was a terrible thing to say. She built a whole company by herself. Iris's chin lifted. She is the most ambitious person I know. She is. I was too foolish to see it. Iris considered this. Then she turned and walked toward the playground, leaving Victor to follow. The hour passed slowly. Violet chattered constantly, showing Victor her favorite spots on the playground, explaining the rules of games he did not understand, asking questions about his job and his car and whether he had ever met anyone famous. She was open and curious and entirely without guile, a child who had not yet learned to protect herself from disappointment. Iris said almost nothing. She watched. She listened. She positioned herself between Victor and her sister at all times, a small guardian who had appointed herself protector of her family. When the hour ended, Margot appeared at the edge of the playground. Time to go. Violet's face fell. Already. We have things to do. Say goodbye. Violet turned to Victor. Can you come again? Next Saturday. Victor looked at Margot. Her expression gave nothing away. If your mother says it is all right. We will see. Margot took each girl's hand. Say goodbye. Goodbye. Violet waved enthusiastically. Goodbye. Iris did not wave. Victor watched them walk away, three figures growing smaller against the grey November sky, and felt something shift in his chest. Something that might have been hope. The Saturday visits became routine. 1 hour. The park on Western Avenue. Margot on the bench by the fountain, watching but not participating. Victor learning the names of Violet's stuffed animals and Iris's favorite books and the particular way each girl liked her ice cream served. Violet warmed to him quickly. She was a child who loved easily, who saw the best in everyone, who believed that people could change because she had not yet been given reason to doubt it. She called him Mr. Victor at first, then just Victor, and once, accidentally, almost Dad before catching herself and going silent. Iris was harder. She did not trust him. She kept her distance, answered his questions in monosyllables, and watched him with an intensity that made him feel like a specimen under glass. She was protecting her mother and her sister from the man who had hurt them, and she would not stop until she was certain he could be trusted. Victor did not blame her. He would have done the same. 3 weeks into the visits, Margot spoke to him for the first time since they had begun. They are starting to ask why you only come on Saturdays. She stood beside his bench while the girls played on the swings. They want to know if you are going to be at Thanksgiving. At Christmas. They are making room for you in their lives, Victor, and I need to know if you are actually going to stay or if you are going to disappear again. I am not going to disappear. You said that 8 years ago. You said you loved me. You said we had a future. And then you walked out and never looked back. Victor turned to face her. I was a different person then. I was wrong about everything. About you, about what mattered, about who I wanted to be. I cannot undo what I did, but I can be different now. Can you? Margot's voice was sharp. Because I have been waiting for 6 weeks to see if you would get bored. If you would start cancelling visits. If your business would become more important than your children. And you have not yet, but that does not mean you will not. What would it take? For you to believe me? Time. Margot looked at her daughters on the swings. Years of showing up. Years of being consistent. Years of putting them first, even when it is inconvenient. That is what it takes to be a parent, Victor. Not grand gestures. Not expensive gifts. Just being there, day after day, even when it is hard. Then that is what I will do. We will see. She walked back to her bench. Victor watched the girls swing higher and higher, their laughter carrying across the playground, and made a silent promise to himself. He would not let them down, whatever it cost him. The call from the hospice came on a Tuesday evening. Victor was reviewing documents in his home office when his phone buzzed. The nurse's voice was gentle but urgent. "Mr. Harrington, your father is asking for you. I think you should come tonight." Victor drove through the dark streets, past the bus stop on Western Avenue where he had first seen Margot and the girls, past the school where Violet had listed him as an emergency contact, past all the landmarks of a city he had never really seen until now. The hospice was quiet. The hallways smelled of antiseptic and flowers. A night nurse led him to his father's room and left him at the door. William Harrington looked smaller than Victor remembered. The weeks since their last conversation had carved hollows in his cheeks, shadows under his eyes. His breathing was labored, each inhale a struggle against the machines that were keeping him alive. "You came." William's voice was barely a whisper. "You called. Sit. I do not have much time." Victor pulled the chair close to the bed and took his father's hand. The skin was papery, the bones fragile beneath. "I have been thinking," William said, "about all the things I got wrong. All the years I wasted chasing things that did not matter." He paused to catch his breath. "I was not a good father to you. I was not present. I chose my company over my family, and by the time I realized what I had lost, it was too late. I know. I do not want you to end up like me." William's grip tightened on Victor's hand. "Alone. Dying in a room where no one knows my name. With nothing to show for 80 years except money I cannot spend and regrets I cannot fix. I am trying to do better. I know you are. I have watched you these past weeks. The visits to the park. The ice cream. The way you sit there waiting for those little girls to decide if you are worth trusting." William smiled faintly. "You are different now. Softer. More human." Victor did not know what to say. "Those children are your legacy," William continued. "Not your company. Not your money. Not any of the things you have spent your life accumulating. Just 2 little girls and the woman who raised them. That is what will matter when you are lying in a bed like this one. I am starting to understand that." "Good." William's eyes were closing. "There is something else. Something I need to tell you." "What?" "Margot. She came to see me. A week ago." Victor went still. "She brought the girls." William smiled at the memory. "They climbed on the bed and showed me pictures they had drawn. They called me Grandpa William. I held them. I saw their faces. I got to say goodbye. She never told me. She said it was not about you. It was about giving them a chance to know their grandfather before he was gone." William's voice faded. "She is a remarkable woman. Do not let her go again." "I will not. Promise me." "I promise." William's breathing slowed. His grip on Victor's hand loosened. "I am proud of you." The words were barely audible. "I should have said that more often, Dad." But William's eyes had closed. His chest rose and fell once more, twice, and then was still. Victor sat there for a long time, holding his father's hand, watching the monitors flatline, listening to the silence that filled the room. He had wasted so many years being angry at his father. So many years blaming him for the coldness, the distance, the inability to express love in any way that mattered. And now his father was gone, and Victor understood that he had been looking in a mirror the whole time. The nurse came in eventually. She was kind. She said the things nurses say in these moments, words about peace and rest and being sorry for his loss. Victor heard none of it. He walked out of the hospice into the cold November night and sat in his car and let himself grieve. Not just for his father, but for the man his father might have been. The man Victor himself might have been if he had made different choices. His phone buzzed. A text from Margot. "I heard about your father. I am sorry. Thank you for bringing the girls to see him." A long pause. Then her response. "They wanted to meet their grandfather. I could not say no." Victor typed back. "He told me. About the visit. About how much it meant to him." Another pause. "He was kind to me. When you were not. I wanted them to know that side of him." Victor stared at the screen. She had shown his dying father more grace than Victor had ever shown her. She had brought her daughters to a stranger's bedside so they could say goodbye to a man they barely knew. She had done this not for Victor's sake, but because it was the right thing to do. The funeral was 3 days later. It was a small service. His father had outlived most of his friends and alienated most of his business associates. The chapel was half empty, the flowers perfunctory, the eulogy delivered by a minister who had never met William Harrington. Victor sat in the front row, alone. Halfway through the service, the door at the back of the chapel opened. Margot walked in with Iris and Violet. They were dressed in dark colors, the girls holding their mother's hands. They slid into a pew near the back and sat quietly, not drawing attention, simply present. Victor felt something break open in his chest. After the service, he found them in the parking lot. "You did not have to come." Margot shrugged. "The girls wanted to. They said Grandpa William would have been sad if no one came." "He would have." Victor looked at his daughters. "Thank you. Both of you." Violet stepped forward and hugged him. It was the first time she had ever initiated physical contact. Her small arms wrapped around his waist, and she held on for a long moment. "I am sorry your daddy died." She said it into his chest. "That is very sad." Victor's throat closed. He could not speak. He just held her. Iris hung back, watching. She did not hug him. But when her eyes met his, something in them had softened. Some wall had come down, just slightly. It was not forgiveness. It was not trust. But it was something. The weeks after the funeral were quiet. Victor went to the park every Saturday. He attended Violet's school play, sitting in the back row so as not to draw attention. He helped Iris with a project about marine biology, learning more about octopi than he had ever wanted to know. He brought chocolate with hazelnuts to every visit, just as Violet had requested. Catherine's absence was a presence in his life. She was still at her parents' house. They had spoken twice since she left, brief conversations about logistics and legalities and the future of their marriage. She had not filed for divorce, but she had not come home either. George Pemberton's silence was more ominous. The merger was still proceeding, but Victor had heard nothing from his father-in-law since Catherine had left. That silence felt like the calm before a storm. The storm arrived on a Thursday afternoon. Victor was in his office when his assistant announced that George Pemberton was in the lobby. "Send him up." George entered without knocking. He was a large man, accustomed to filling rooms with his presence, and he did so now. He sat in the chair across from Victor's desk and crossed his legs and said nothing. Victor waited. Finally, George spoke. "My daughter has been at my house for 2 months. She cries every night. She will not eat. She will not see her friends. She just sits in her room and stares at the wall. I am sorry. Are you? Because from where I sit, you have been playing house with another woman and her children while my daughter falls apart." Victor did not deny it. George continued. "I saved your company, Victor. I put my reputation on the line for you. I introduced you to investors, vouched for you to banks, convinced my own partners to take a risk on a man who had nearly lost everything. And this is how you repay me. I never intended to hurt Catherine. Intentions do not matter. Results do." George leaned forward. "Here is what is going to happen. You are going to recommit to your marriage. You are going to stop these visits with your ex-girlfriend and her children. You are going to stand beside my daughter at the merger gala next month and announce that everything is fine. Or I will pull my investment and let your company collapse." Victor was quiet for a long moment. "And if I refuse? Then you will lose everything. Your company. Your reputation. Your ability to provide for anyone, including those children you seem so devoted to." George stood. "I am not a cruel man, Victor. I am a practical one. My daughter loves you. For reasons I do not understand, she wants to save this marriage. I am giving you the opportunity to let her." He walked to the door. "You have until the gala to decide. That is 3 weeks. Use them wisely." The door closed behind him. Victor sat at his desk, looking at the city spread before him, and felt the walls closing in. That night, he went to Margot's house. He had never been there before. He had looked up the address months ago but had never had the courage to use it. It was a modest brownstone in a quiet neighborhood, the kind of place where neighbors knew each other's names and children played in the street until dinner time. He knocked. Margot answered. Victor. She did not invite him in. What are you doing here? I need to talk to you. The girls are asleep. I know. This is about something else. She studied his face, saw something there that made her step aside. He entered. The house was warm and cluttered in a comfortable way. Children's artwork on the refrigerator. Books stacked on every surface. A worn couch with a blanket thrown over the arm. It was nothing like his penthouse, with its cold surfaces and expensive art. It was a home. Margot led him to the kitchen and put the kettle on. She did not offer him tea, just started making it, her back to him. Say what you came to say. George Pemberton gave me an ultimatum. Victor sat at the kitchen table. I have to recommit to Catherine and end my relationship with you and the girls, or he pulls his investment and destroys my company. Margot did not turn around. And I do not know what to do. Now she turned. Her expression was unreadable. Let me understand this. You came to my house, at 10 o'clock at night, to tell me that you might have to choose between your company and your children. Yes. And you do not know what to do. Victor met her eyes. I know what I want to do. I want to choose you. Choose them. But if I do that, I lose everything. The company, the money, the ability to provide for anyone. So you want me to tell you it is all right. Margot's voice was flat. You want me to give you permission to walk away again. To say I understand, that business is business, that the girls and I will be fine on our own like we have always been. No. That is not what I want. Then what do you want, Victor? He stood. Crossed the kitchen to where she stood by the counter. I want you to tell me that I am worth fighting for. That what we are building here, these visits, this tentative trust, this chance to be a family, is worth more than any company or merger or business obligation. I want you to tell me that if I give up everything else, you will let me in. Margot's eyes were wet. She looked away. I cannot tell you that. Why not? Because I do not know if I can trust you. She turned back to face him. You have been showing up for 3 months. That is nothing. That is not even the length of a school semester. I have been doing this alone for 8 years, Victor. 8 years of sleepless nights and impossible choices and carrying everything on my own. I cannot just forget all of that because you have started coming to the park on Saturdays. I know. Do you? Do you really understand what you are asking of me? To let you into our lives fully, to give you the power to hurt us again, to trust that this time will be different. I understand. Then understand this too. Margot's voice cracked. I am terrified. Every time I watch you with the girls, every time I see them starting to love you, I am terrified that you will leave again. That something shinier will come along and you will walk away and I will have to explain to them why their father is gone. I will not. You do not know that. No one knows that. All I can do is watch what you do and hope that your actions match your words. Victor reached for her hand. She let him take it. Then watch. Give me a chance to prove myself. Not because I am asking you to trust me, but because I am willing to earn it. Margot looked at their joined hands. She did not pull away. What are you going to do about the ultimatum? I do not know yet. But I am not going to let George Pemberton decide my future for me. She finally met his eyes. If you choose us and lose everything else, I cannot promise to fill that gap. I cannot promise to love you the way Catherine loves you. I cannot promise anything except that I will let you try. That is enough. Is it? For now. Yes. She withdrew her hand gently. You should go. The girls will be up early, and I cannot explain why you are here. Victor nodded. He walked to the door. Paused. Whatever happens next, I want you to know that meeting them, knowing them, being part of their lives even for these few months, has been the best thing that ever happened to me. Margot said nothing. But when he looked back, she was crying. The days before the gala passed in a blur. Victor met with his lawyers. He met with his accountants. He reviewed every aspect of his business, trying to find a way to survive without George Pemberton's investment. There was none. The company was too deeply entangled with the Pemberton family's money. Walking away from the marriage meant walking away from everything. He called Catherine. "I need to see you." They met at a restaurant neither of them liked, a neutral space where they could speak without the weight of their shared history pressing down on them. She looked thinner than he remembered. Paler. The vibrancy that had once made her beautiful had faded into something fragile and uncertain. "You look terrible." She said it without malice. Just observation. "So do you." A ghost of a smile. "We make quite a pair." The waiter came. They ordered food neither of them would eat. When he left, silence stretched between them. Catherine spoke first. "My father told me about the ultimatum. I assumed he would. He wants me to convince you to stay. To remind you of everything we have built together." She looked at her hands. "I told him I would not do that." "Why not?" "Because I do not want to be married to a man who is only staying because he has no other choice." She looked up. "I deserve better than that, Victor. I deserve someone who loves me. Not someone who married me because his company was failing and my father was the only one who could save it. I never meant." "I know." She cut him off gently. "You never meant to hurt me. You never meant to fall in love with someone else. You never meant for any of this to happen. But it did happen. And pretending otherwise is not going to change anything. What do you want?" "I want you to be honest. For the first time since I have known you, I want you to tell me the truth about what you actually feel." Victor was quiet for a long moment. "I care about you. I respect you deeply. You are one of the most intelligent, graceful, kind people I have ever known. But I do not love you the way you deserve to be loved. I never have. And staying in this marriage would only make us both miserable." Catherine's eyes filled with tears. She did not wipe them away. "Thank you." She said it quietly. "For finally telling me. I am sorry it took so long." "Me too." She picked up her napkin, dabbed at her eyes. "I am going to tell my father that I want a divorce. Whatever happens to your company after that is between you and him. You do not have to do that." "Yes, I do. Because I deserve to find someone who loves me the way you love her. And I cannot do that if I am still married to you." She stood, leaned down, kissed his cheek. "Good luck, Victor. I hope you find what you are looking for." She walked out. Victor watched her go and felt something he had not expected. Relief. The merger gala was held at the Grand Pavilion, a venue that had hosted presidents and princes and the kind of people who measured their worth in zeros. 300 guests filled the ballroom. Crystal chandeliers cast fractured light across designer gowns and tailored suits. A string quartet played something elegant in the corner. Waiters circulated with champagne that cost more per bottle than most people earned in a week. Victor stood at the edge of the room, watching. George Pemberton was at the center of a cluster of investors, laughing at something one of them had said. Catherine was notably absent. Her mother had explained to curious guests that she was feeling unwell. No one believed it. Victor's phone buzzed. A text from Margot. "The girls made you something. They want you to have it before tonight." An image loaded. A drawing, done in crayon, showing 3 stick figures holding hands under a rainbow. The figures were labeled in childish handwriting. Iris. Violet. Dad. Victor stared at the screen. Another message. "Whatever you decide, they want you to know they love you." He did not respond. He could not. His throat had closed completely. George Pemberton appeared at his elbow. "It is time. The announcement is in 15 minutes. Catherine's absence has been noted. People are starting to talk. You need to make a statement." "I know." George studied him. "I hope you have made the right choice." "I have." George nodded and moved toward the stage, where technicians were adjusting microphones and a large screen displayed the logo of both companies intertwined. Victor took a breath, straightened his tie, and walked toward his future. The room quieted as George Pemberton took the stage. "Thank you all for joining us tonight." George's voice filled the ballroom with practiced ease. "We are here to celebrate not just a merger, but a union of 2 families. 2 legacies. 2 visions for the future." Applause. Victor stood near the stage, waiting. George continued, speaking about strategic synergies and market opportunities and all the language of business that Victor had once believed was the only language that mattered. And now, George smiled toward Victor. I would like to invite my son-in-law, Victor Harrington, to say a few words about what this partnership means to him. Victor climbed the steps to the stage. The spotlight was hot on his face. 300 faces looked up at him, expectant. He thought about his father, dying alone in a hospice bed. He thought about Catherine, walking out of a restaurant with tears on her face. He thought about Margot, standing in her kitchen, terrified to trust him. He thought about Iris and Violet, drawing pictures of a family that did not yet exist. He took the microphone. Thank you all for being here tonight. The room was silent. Waiting. I was supposed to stand up here and talk about partnerships and mergers and the exciting future of our combined companies. I was supposed to smile and say all the right things and pretend that everything is exactly as it should be. Confused murmurs rippled through the crowd. George's smile faltered. But I cannot do that anymore. Victor looked out at the sea of faces. Investors. Business associates. People who had known him for years and never really known him at all. 8 years ago, I left a woman I loved because I told myself she was not ambitious enough for the life I intended to build. I said terrible things to her. I walked away without looking back. And I never knew that she was pregnant with my children. Gasps. Whispers. George's face had gone white. I found out on my wedding day. I saw her at a bus stop, holding the hands of 2 little girls who looked exactly like me. I had just said vows to another woman, and I suddenly realized that everything I thought I wanted was built on the worst mistake I had ever made. Victor's voice was steady now. Calm. I married Catherine Pemberton because her father saved my company from bankruptcy. It was a business arrangement dressed up as a romance, and we both knew it, even if we never said it out loud. She deserves better than that. She deserves someone who loves her completely, not someone who is using her to prop up his failing business. The room was in chaos now. People were standing. George was moving toward the stage. Security was uncertain whether to intervene. I am not going to pretend anymore, Victor said into the microphone. I am not going to choose my company over my children. I am not going to let George Pemberton or anyone else decide what my life is supposed to look like. He set down the microphone. As of tonight, I am stepping down as CEO of Harrington Industries. I am ending my marriage to Catherine. And I am going to spend whatever time I have left trying to be the father those little girls deserve. He walked off the stage. The room erupted behind him. George was shouting something. People were taking photographs. Somewhere, someone was already calling the press. Victor walked through the chaos without stopping. Through the ballroom, through the lobby, out into the cold night air. He got in his car. He drove. And for the first time in his life, he had no idea where he was going. He ended up at Margot's house. It was nearly midnight. The windows were dark. He sat in his car across the street, staring at the brownstone where his daughters were sleeping, and did not know what to do next. His phone buzzed. A text from a number he did not recognize. I saw the live stream. The whole thing. It is all over social media. Then another message. This is Margot. I borrowed a neighbor's phone. Victor typed back. I am outside your house. A pause. Then the front door opened. Margot stood there in a robe, her hair messy from sleep, her face illuminated by the porch light. She did not invite him in. She just stood there, looking at him. Victor got out of the car, crossed the street, stopped at the bottom of her steps. I destroyed everything. He said it simply. My company. My reputation. My entire life. I know. I watched. I have nothing left. Margot was quiet for a moment. Then she said. The girls saw it too. I could not get them to bed. They wanted to wait up for news about you. What did they think? Violet cried. She was so happy you said the word Dad on television. She thought it meant you were really going to stay. And Iris. Iris said she would believe it when she saw it. But she smiled. I have not seen her smile about you before. Victor felt something crack open in his chest. I do not know what happens next. He admitted. I do not know where I am going to live, or what I'm going to do for work, or how I'm going to provide for anyone. All I know is that I am done running. Margot came down the steps. She stopped in front of him. You gave up everything. For a chance. Not a promise. Not a guarantee. Just a chance. Yes. Why? Because they are worth it. Because you are worth it. Because my father was right. The only thing that matters in the end is the people you loved and whether they knew it. Margot's eyes were wet. Victor. She said his name like she was testing it. You understand that this does not fix everything. That you still have years of trust to rebuild. That I cannot just forget everything that happened. I know. And you are still willing to try. For as long as it takes. She looked at him for a long moment. Then she reached out and took his hand. The girls want to see you. They have been asking all night. It is past midnight. I know. But some moments cannot wait. She led him inside. Up the stairs. To a bedroom with 2 small beds and a nightlight shaped like a moon. Violet was sitting up, her eyes huge in the darkness. Iris was pretending to be asleep, but her breathing was too fast. Look who came to visit. Margot said quietly. Violet launched herself out of bed and ran to Victor. She hugged him so hard he nearly fell over. You came. You came. I knew you would come. Iris opened her eyes. She did not get up. She just watched. Victor knelt down so he was at eye level with Violet. I need to tell you both something. What? I made a lot of mistakes before you were born. I hurt your mother. I was not there when you needed me. I missed so many things I should have been there for. And I am sorry. I am so sorry for all of it. Violet's face was solemn. That is okay. Mama says everyone makes mistakes. Your mother is very wise. I know. Victor looked at Iris. She had not moved from her bed. I know you do not trust me yet. He said to her. I know I have not earned it. But I am going to keep showing up. Every day. Every week. For as long as it takes. Because you are my daughters, and I love you. Iris's expression did not change. But her voice, when she spoke, was softer than Victor had ever heard it. You really gave up your company. For us. Yes. Why? Because you matter more than any company ever could. Iris was quiet. Then she threw back her covers and crossed the room. She stopped in front of Victor. I am still going to watch you, she said. I am still going to make sure you do not mess up. I would expect nothing less. But, she hesitated. I am glad you came. She did not hug him. She was not ready for that. But she stood close enough that her shoulder brushed his arm, and for Iris, that was everything. Margot stood in the doorway, tears streaming down her face. Victor looked up at her. Whatever happens next, he said. We face it together. Margot nodded. She could not speak. Victor stayed with his daughters until they fell asleep. He sat on the floor between their beds, listening to their breathing, watching the moonlight pattern on the ceiling. At some point, Margot brought him a blanket. She sat beside him, her back against the wall, close enough that their shoulders touched. What are you going to do tomorrow? She whispered. I do not know. Figure out where to live. Talk to lawyers. Start over. That sounds hard. It will be. Are you scared? Terrified? She turned to look at him. For what it is worth, I am glad you chose this. Chose us. So am I. They sat in silence as the night deepened around them. 2 people who had hurt each other. 2 people who had lost years they could never get back. 2 people who were finally, tentatively, learning to trust again. It was not a happy ending. It was barely a beginning. But it was real. And for the first time in his life, Victor Harrington understood that real was the only thing worth having. 6 months later. Victor lived in a small apartment now. 2 bedrooms, a galley kitchen, a view of a brick wall. Nothing like the penthouse he had lost. Nothing like the life he had built and destroyed. He loved it. Every weekend, the girls came to visit. They had their own room now, decorated with drawings and photographs and a stuffed animal collection that seemed to grow every week. Violet had named all of them. Iris had organized them by size. Victor cooked breakfast on Saturday mornings. Pancakes, usually, because that was all he knew how to make. The girls did not seem to mind. Margot came sometimes. Not every weekend, but often enough. She would sit at his small kitchen table and drink coffee and watch him try to flip pancakes without dropping them. She did not offer to help. She said he needed to learn. She was right. He was learning a lot of things. The company had collapsed, as George Pemberton had promised. Victor had lost everything. His reputation in the business world was destroyed. His name had become synonymous with betrayal and bad judgment and the kind of spectacular public meltdown that made for excellent news coverage. He did not care. He had found a job at a small non-profit that helped disadvantaged youth learn business skills. The pay was almost nothing. The hours were long. The work was harder than anything he had ever done in his corporate career. He loved that too. On a Sunday afternoon in April, Victor took the girls to the park. It was Violet's birthday. She was 8 now, old enough to have opinions about everything and young enough to still believe in magic. They had a picnic. Sandwiches and fruit and a cake that Victor had attempted to bake himself. It was lopsided and the frosting was uneven, and Violet declared it the best cake she had ever seen. Iris helped her sister blow out the candles. 8 flames extinguished with a single breath. "What did you wish for?" Victor asked. Violet grinned. "I cannot tell you. It will not come true." Fair enough. Margot arrived as they were cutting the cake. She carried a wrapped present and wore a dress Victor had never seen before. Something about the way the sunlight caught her hair made his breath catch. "Happy birthday, sweetheart." She kissed Violet's forehead. "Mama. You came." "Of course I came." They ate cake and opened presents and watched the girls run through the grass, chasing each other in circles until they collapsed, laughing, on the ground. Victor and Margot sat on the picnic blanket, not quite touching, watching their daughters. "She is growing up so fast," Margot said. "They both are. Sometimes I look at them and I cannot believe they are ours. That we made these incredible people." "I know what you mean." Margot turned to look at him. "Thank you. For being here. For staying. There is nowhere else I would rather be." She reached out and took his hand. It was the first time she had initiated contact since that night in her doorway 6 months ago. Victor laced his fingers through hers. They sat there in silence, watching their daughters play, holding hands like teenagers, and feeling something that Victor had not felt in a very long time. Hope. Not the desperate hope of a man trying to fix his mistakes. Not the fragile hope of someone waiting for the other shoe to drop. Just hope. Simple and clean and real. The sun began to set. The girls ran back to the blanket, exhausted and happy. Violet climbed into Victor's lap. Iris sat beside Margot, leaning her head against her mother's shoulder. "This was the best birthday ever," Violet announced. "Better than last year. Way better. Because this year I have a dad." The word hit Victor like a wave. He had heard it before, in the hospital, in the phone call, in conversations with the girls. But this was different. This was Violet claiming him. Choosing him. Deciding that he belonged. "I love you." He said it without thinking. "Both of you. More than anything." Iris looked up. "We know." She said it simply, as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. And maybe it was. Margot squeezed his hand. The last of the sunlight faded. The first stars appeared. Somewhere in the city, Victor's old life continued without him. The company he had built, the reputation he had earned, the future he had so carefully constructed, all of it belonged to someone else now. He did not miss any of it. Here, on a picnic blanket in a public park, surrounded by the people who mattered most, Victor Harrington had finally found what he had been searching for his entire life. Not success. Not wealth. Not power. Just this. Just them. Just love. The end.